This story begins with Armando, a young boy woken up by his mother for his first day at a new school. He hates waking up and studying and refuses to go, but his mother, Maria, forces him out of bed. During breakfast, he sits angrily while his parents argue over financial problems. His father, Marco, works at a construction company and is at risk of losing his job. Armando refuses to eat, and his father gets up to leave for work. Before he leaves, Maria tells Marco he should talk to Armando about his bad attitude towards school. Marco argues that it's her responsibility as the mother to handle it, as he doesn't have the time, and leaves angrily. At school, Armando meets Matthias, a classmate, and two other girls. He develops a crush on one of the girls and tries to talk to her, but she ignores him and walks away. Armando ends up hanging out with Matthias, and the two begin a friendship. Back at home, Armando takes out his phone and starts playing a violent game called the Sicario Game. In the game, he defeats another player named Tiburon, who messages him privately, claiming it was just luck and asking for his phone number to stay in touch. Armando shares his number, and Tiburon contacts him, suggesting they bring the game into real life. He dares Armando to record himself beating up a classmate in exchange for letting him win in the game, helping him level up quickly. Armando accepts. The next day, Armando tells Matthias about the plan and asks him to record the video. He then violently attacks a classmate, leaving him nearly unconscious. Armando is caught by a school authority and sent to the principal's office, where his parents are called. The school threatens to expel Armando, but he lies and claims that his classmate started the fight and that he was only defending himself. His parents are upset and tell him that violence is not the way to solve problems. They promise the principal that nothing like this will happen again. The principal reluctantly gives Armando a second chance, warning that if another incident occurs, he will be expelled. At home, his parents confront him about what would happen if he were expelled. Armando angrily responds that he'd just stay home sleeping because he hates school. This angers his father, who says that if Armando doesn't want to study, he'll take him to work as a construction laborer. Armando, furious, says he'd never do that and would rather stay in school. He promises his father he will behave, and his father warns him that if he doesn't, he'll follow through on his threat. Later, Armando plays the Sicario game again and is contacted by Tiburon, who asks if he completed the challenge. Armando sends him the video as proof. Tiburon praises Armando, calling him a great hitman both in the game and in real life, and declares him the winner of the challenge. It's then revealed that Tiburon works for a gang recruiting child hitmen. Tiburon asks Armando for his home address, which Armando provides, and the gang leader celebrates. Armando tells his mother he's going out with a friend. When she asks where he's going, Armando angrily lies, saying he's going to check on homework. Maria argues with him and says he's not allowed to go out. Armando insults her and yells, prompting her to slap him. Enraged, Armando storms out of the house. He meets up with Matthias and tells him that nobody at home cares about him, and the only thing that makes him happy is playing the Sicario game. Matthias, who doesn't know about the game, asks what it's about. Armando explains how it works and mentions Tiburon, calling him his best friend in the game and revealing that it was Tiburon who dared him to attack his classmate. Matthias, concerned, asks if Armando knows Tiburon or has at least seen his picture. Armando says he hasn't but doesn't care because they've exchanged numbers and are virtual friends. When Armando returns home, his parents confront him. His father calls him lazy and says he doesn't want any slackers in his house. Armando responds angrily, saying his father only notices him when he does bad things, and that he has to act out to get his attention. His father, furious, beats him with a belt. Armando storms off, and his father regrets his actions. In his room, Armando messages Tiburon. The gang leader commands Tiburon that he tells Armando that mothers always cause problems and convinces him to run away from home. He tempts Armando with promises of earning a lot of money as a great gamer. Armando tries to make a video call to Tiburon, but the gang leader covers the laptop camera, and Tiburon tells Armando that his camera is broken. Armando is tempted by the idea of being a great gamer and make a lot of money. The next day, Armando arrives home. His mother asks him where he has been and tells him that if the problem is the video game, she's going to cut it off at the root and eliminate internet access. Armando tells her she can't do that, but his mother responds that she can, as she's the one who pays for the internet, and if he doesn't change his attitude, he can forget about it. Furious, Armando goes to his room and calls Tiburon. He tells him that he hates his mom and that by cutting off the internet, she's going to make him lose his top spot in the Sicario game. Tiburon again tells him to run away from home and come to his place, promising he'll make a lot of money. The next morning, Tiburon arrives at Armando's house in a truck, accompanied by another gang member. He instructs Armando to ensure no one has followed him. The truck takes Armando to the gang's hideout, where the leader greets him, saying he'll teach him to be a real hitman. Armando, terrified, says he doesn't want to be a hitman. The leader beats him and says there's no room for cowards in the gang. He takes Armando's phone, tells him to forget about his family, and threatens to unalive his parents if he doesn't cooperate. The leader continues beating him and hands him a weapon. Meanwhile, Matias and one of Armando's classmates worry about him when he doesn't respond to messages. They assume he must be with Tiburon, practicing to become a better gamer. At the hideout, the gang leader trains the child recruits, including Armando, teaching them how to aim and conditioning them to unalive themselves if captured. At home, Armando's parents argue about his whereabouts. His father assumes he's with a friend, unaware that Armando is being held captive and crying himself to sleep on the hideout floor. Armando's parents ask his classmates about his whereabouts, but no one knows anything, so they decide to go to the police. Meanwhile, at school, the principal is informed that Armando has been absent for 2 days in a row. He decides to contact Armando's parents and informs them that Armando will be expelled if he doesn't show up the next day. Armando's mother tries to explain to the principal that Armando is missing. The school staff, along with Armando's parents, go to the police, where they are informed that Armando's case is one of several and that a gang is kidnapping children through a video game to turn them into hitmen. The police ask Matias to help them catch the gang. Back at the hideout, Tiburon recruits another gamer, promising money and freedom. After this, we see the gang members leave for a mission, handing weapons to the child hitmen, including Armando. They arrive at a restaurant and open fire on several people who return fire. During the shootout, several people, including child assassins, fall. In the crossfire, a bullet hits Armando, and he collapses, injured. The hitmen finish off the people who are left injured, including the other wounded hitmen. Tiburon points a weapon at Armando, and he begs him not to unalive him. At home, Armando's mother has a bad feeling. The police arrive at the crime scene, where they identify the bodies. The police chief orders that the wounded be transferred to a hospital. At the hospital, we see Armando's parents arrive. The police chief speaks to them and tells them about the attack, mentioning that there are several unalive people, including child hitmen, and that one of them could be Armando. Armando's parents are led to the morgue, where they see the bodies of several child hitmen, but none of them are Armando. They return to the police chief, who informs them that there is a wounded child in intensive care, fighting for his life. Later, we see Matias waiting on the street. A truck arrives with Tiburon, and Matias gets in. They leave, and Matias is welcomed into the hideout by the gang leader, who tells him he will now become an hitman. But immediately, the police arrive and arrest the gang members. The police had implanted a GPS device in Matias and used him as bait to track down the gang's location. The police chief informs the parents that they have caught the gang that used the Assassin's Game to recruit victims and takes them to a hospital room where Armando is recovering. Armando wakes up crying and reconciles with his parents. He then remembers the moment when Tiburon was about to finish him off, but the gun jammed. Behind Tiburon, he saw an image of the Virgin of Guadalupe. His parents cry, and together they promise to be a better family.